it's not affordable to live on your own as a single person anymore.
Over half of our population is rent burdened. It's setting up a perfect storm in Cleveland.
As households across the country try and grapple with the housing affordability crisis, this should be the place they can come.
You look at the way that prices just keep growing and growing, and you do sit here and wonder, what the hell are we going to be looking at?
Home prices in the Cleveland metro area have surged, up nearly 60% in 6 years, top 3 in America, 3 years running. The reality is, what may look affordable on the outside, for people who actually live here, it is a significant problem. Rent prices in 2024 were up 10.6% on average.
Wages have not kept pace with the higher rents.
It's a crisis compounding over time and rippling across area codes, visible here in this city, clearer than almost anywhere else.
The United States is the most prosperous nation of modern times. The story of homes, of how a people live, is the story of the foundation on which a nation is built.
For generations, Cleveland was the promise kept, one of the last places in America where a family of almost any income could still put a key in a door that belonged to them.
I know a lot of single people that are my age and that still have to live at home or live, with roommates, because it's not affordable to live on your own as a single person anymore. Like, you just can't swing it.
For Clevelanders like Jolene Simicek, the deal has quietly come undone.
You're told, work hard, when you're growing up. Get a job, work hard, and you'll get a house. It seems now that you can work hard, but you're going to keep working hard, and it doesn't really feel like you're getting ahead. If you're not able to own property and have your own house, at the end of the day, what are you working for?
Jolene is a working mom raising a teenage son. When a layoff knocked her down, she went back to school to become a nurse. But skyrocketing rents caught up to her.
It went from $785 to nearly $1,600 a month.
Your rent effectively doubled.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Over, 7 years?
Yeah.
6 years, 7 years?
Yeah.
Her next best option, renting out a room in her sister's basement.
They were lucky enough to rent it to me for $450 a month.
$450? Okay.
Yep.
And the alternative was roughly $1,600-ish?
$1,600, or I sleep in my little hatchback, so.
Most Clevelanders, like Jolene, rent, and nearly 1 in 4 hand over more than half of everything they earn just to stay housed.
Let me just putting all my junk away. A lot of it's sentimental, so it's like, you gotta take it. But yeah, this is everything we own is here, so it's basically everything, a little bit of everything. I've already paid $250,000 in rent in my life, I should already have the home with the equity paid off. But I didn't make the right decisions, If you rent, that's what you get.
And the way out, a starter home in her own suburb of Parma, keeps drifting further from her grasp. Driving around Parma, Ohio, and seeing starter homes at $300,000 is just different than, how I grew up in Ohio.
Right, that was the real nice house that everyone would go in the neighborhood and go and check out, was the $300,000 house. And now that's literally, you're getting a 2-bedroom little condo looking house for that price, with no yard.
So how did Cleveland's housing crisis get to this point?
This is a street, if we went back 20 years ago, we certainly wouldn't have had vacant lots like that.
Frank Ford has spent decades tracing the forces that shaped these streets. It starts with redlining, the deliberate practice of starving predominantly black neighborhoods of home loans, drawing lines on a map that decided who got to build wealth and who didn't.
There's a shift that took place in the late 90s where some mortgage lenders flipped that and realized, well, wait a minute, instead of denying people loans because we perceive them as high risk, what if we make loans and use that perception as the reason to raise interest rates?
Predatory loans followed in Cleveland and nationwide, fueling a bubble that burst in 2007, when families couldn't keep up with the terms built against them.
The volume of defaults was so large that the foreclosures coming out of those defaults was 4 times the rate of foreclosure that we had before this all started. The banks found themselves sitting on 600 homes in Cleveland, 800 homes in Cleveland, most of which were vacant and abandoned. So they started to offload those properties for pennies on the dollar to investors, people that would pay $500 for 50 homes.
Thousands of homes were swept up by phantom investors, charging market rents while letting them rot.
Those properties are so bad that they bring the prices and the values down of the other homes that were not foreclosed in close vicinity. So a home buyer might be going to look at somebody's home, but then they notice, oh, across the street there's 3 vacant abandoned homes. There's no way I want to live on that street.
The paradox? Homes stay cheap because families can't buy, while rents soar because everyone needs housing. That gap in between, that's what draws more out-of-state investors. Buy in all cash, ignore upkeep and repairs, keep rents high. Pure income, pure extraction that feeds itself. And Shaker Square on Cleveland's east side is one of its clearest windows.
Okay, this is my 1-bedroom. These are the water blisters that dried out I told you about. These here are the holes where all the water came through.
Anderson Walden moved here in 2020 with a simple plan based on a long-held dream: to retire in a safe, affordable neighborhood, walkable to restaurants, shops, and public transit.
My expectations was I have a retirement coming in, I have Social Security coming in. I thought this would be perfect, not knowing that I would have to keep up with so many other situations.
Instead, he watched 3 out of every 4 of his neighbors leave, and the buildings they left behind crumble around the few who did stay.
I have my drills. I've tried to fix everything myself because I can't wait till it gets done, because it never gets done.
Drive 20 miles west on I-90 and it feels like you've entered a different universe. Demand for homes in the city's western suburbs has always been high. But as more families are priced out of Cleveland's booming downtown, the competition here has grown fiercer, and property values have only gone up.
Before this, we lived in the city and wanted to buy in the city, and in the specific neighborhood that we were in, the cost of housing has exploded in those places.
Stephen Miller and his wife are working professionals, in many ways the embodiment of what for generations represented an essential first link in the chain that has defined U.S. homeownership. Instead, they found themselves elbowing through crowds of people at every open house, battling investors offering all cash and waiving inspections.
We were looking for probably about a year for what eventually kind of became our unicorn, I guess, which never fruitioned. And then, over time, we just kind of gave up and started kind of expanding that search.
Eventually, a listing popped up in their budget, and they were able to close on it quicker than anyone else. The only problem was it was miles from the bustling downtown neighborhood where they wanted to settle.
We live in a lovely suburb now that's right on the lake. It's great, but that was never in the plans, to say the least.
But what does it tell you kind of about the Cleveland affordability experience that you had to go through what you went through and end up in a place that you weren't even looking when you started?
Yeah, I mean, it's frankly astounding. It was so surprising that it was so difficult. Just like everyone else's experience, there's some phantom outside buyer that comes in the last second, 50 grand over the asking price, and all of a sudden, will you match? No, I'm not doing that. It's absolutely brutal out there.
The Midwest was like the secret where you can not have to spend all of your money on mortgage and rent, and you can live comfortably, and it's not that way anymore.
Back in Parma, Jolene made clear repeatedly she's not asking for a handout. Instead, she's only wondering, how did it get this hard for people who did everything they were told to do?
I feel that we shouldn't get discouraged and not allow these people to still be able to partake in the American dream and buying a home and stuff like that.
Why'd your tone change when you said the American dream?
Because it sounds like a joke anymore, but it's something that people still attain. Maybe they don't call it that, but what are we here for then if you're not trying to do that? Make your community better, buy a home.
And you're on the path to that now.
Yes. It's been a long road getting here, but yes, I'm not giving up, so.